I think we were just hanging out in town for a bit, trying to, yeah, scraping together the last bit of provisions. And then we went to talk to the captain and said, hey, we can work for a cheaper passage. And the captain was happy about that. So we traveling light, or cheaper than average. And then, yes, at some point during the voyage, we got attacked by some ghost bullshit zombies.
Well,
And yeah,
first we went through a storm, and then we got attacked by undead pirate.
oh yeah, and there is also a bunch of fishermen or fishing people, priests or fish people priests doing some weird voodoo shit on the boat.
Yep, that's
All
also
sounds like heresy to me.
Yeah,
making sure my other screen is centered properly. Start messing stuff.
but yeah, I think for a caster, as far as I understood, at least you have to be initiate because you can still belong to a, a cult or a convent or whatever the hell they're called. But if you're a lay member, then you don't get access to any magic. So, like Bromnir, for example, or Vari, who aren't, spellcasters, they would be lay members if they were even if they were in the same cult.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. The magic. I didn't intend to finish the magic by today. I did intend to have some combat sheet today. I just remember now. I forgot. But yeah, magic is pretty involved in the system, and so that's why, you know, when you wanted to play a magic character early on, I just figured we wouldn't worry too much about the particulars until we understood it a bit better. And now that I'm getting a more firm grasp on the combat, I can start looking more into the magic system and figure out what we can do there as far as your characters and what place and magic organizations they may or may not have.
Uh, now you just needed to know the. So you start with a number of spells, right? And then the spell list you have access to is determined by the rank in the order, which is why I'm asking. And the lowest you can be is initiative, or sorry, initiate, to still have access to spells.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked. Yeah. So if we're rolling with that, I'm a bit unsure uh, how, because the wording is a bit weird. But I think it's like one for every 20% you have in your relative skill. And for this one, it will be devotion. I have 47, I think, percent chance to invoke a miracle. So would that be two spells then?
Let me see. What page is that? All that on?
I'm scrolling back up real quick. So 180, I think, starting.
Alright, and you were referring to theism?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1/20th of the skill.
Yeah, I mean, that's um, pretty straightforward. Just, you basically divide the skill by 20, and I assume probably round down to whatever what the nearest skill is, and then you start uh, with that many powers and making your first character or your original character.
Yeah, so I start with 2 then, because I have 47.
Yep.
And then another thing, it's kind of based on something they mentioned, like it's GM discretion mainly, but it's depending on what cult it is what depends on the stuff you have access to. So, for example, a pacifist farmer deity, farmer cult, for example, probably wouldn't have access to berserk and some of the more like violent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that for now is going to just be you know play as we go, sort of common sense thing like that. Um, but later on, the we could look into developing that further. For now, when I mean common sense, I'm pretty much talking about like what you just mentioned, where if you want to follow a like an agrarian farmer religion and you want to have a berserker power, then you'd have to explain that one way or another.
I mean, it's obviously to rage harvest, the crops.
Yeah,
That's the dumbest thing in D&D, rage looting. A barbarian just hulks the fuck out and then stuffs even more stuff in the bag of holding.
well, I don't know if you played a like a sandbox medieval simulation type game called Life is Feudal, but in the early versions of that game, they used basically harvesting crops and cutting trees and stuff like that. You use the same sort of function as attack, and so your character would cry out and scream and stuff like that when you were harvesting wheat. And when you were walking by a town, there would be a bunch of farmers out harvesting wheat, and you just hear constant screaming in every direction.
You know, as someone who has spent some time on a farm, I can believe that.
Yep.
All right. So, would you be all right with, because I have access to two, would you be all right with me taking Berserk and Heal Wounds as the two starting ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably reasonable. Again, I'll feel more confident about this once I have the time to sit down and draw all of this out. A nice set of charts, but for now, you can just grab those two powers, and I don't think it'll be a problem.
All right. Well, it will for me because I have to remember how to do them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think this was, yeah, and during the fight as well that we started last week, Bramnir decided to man mode the fuck out of everything and do a ultimate power move to board their ship. And well, he was met with a stern, polite disinvite from their boat.
Yeah.
Didn't realize they had a sniper with the punches.
Yeah, you guys, I believe you get your luck points back, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check.
Yeah, no, luck points are like fate points. They refresh every session.
Yep. Yep, it is by session. Yeah, you guys should have them all back now.
You're nicer than my DM in our other group. Our fate points come back after the mission.
Yeah, well, that's in some groups that I've been in. I've known, where the players will try to game the system to the point where they'll filibuster and try to drag it over to the next thing, um, over to the next session to get more points. But as long as that's not a problem, I don't see an issue with it. But yeah, I think we ended at the top of the turn order, so it'll be Athlin de Grey will be the first one to go for this round. All right, yeah. So he sort of takes his time with this round, but he's spending his time getting all his sailors and the Marines to line up properly, and his voice sort of booms over the din of battle, and so you hear that going on in the background, giving everyone all of his soldiers a nice little buff, keep them from running away. And now we'll go down, I believe, to Harold.
All right. Well, there is a bunch of zombies in front. I still haven't figured out the magic shit, so I can't do that. So I think the only reasonable thing to do is let out a ferocious war cry and then just hack the shit out of everything in front of me.
Sounds reasonable.
And so the one straight down or straight in front is gonna take. Let's see here. How did I do this the last time around? Well, yeah.
If you're just gonna hit him, then you go to your combat style, and then you pick style that goes with whatever weapon you're using. Nice.
I believe that's a thing.
Let me see. I don't think. Well, actually, I think he will try to parry it. To see how that goes. Oh my god. And now I have to look up what happens with ties again.
You know what? I'm gonna spend a luck point. See, I do believe there is something about me being able to spend a luck point to force them to reroll. Let me have a look at that.
Yeah, I think there's something better than that. Gain an edge at a vital moment in combat. So let me see what they mean by that.
You have a page number for luck points. I forgot to write that down.
Yeah, it'd be page 11.
Yeah, page 81 or 82 in the book for using luck points.
Yeah, I just found that myself.
Yeah, so it would be sheet fate. Character can even force an opponent to reroll an attack or damage roll. Actually, no, would this be an attack roll because they tried to parry it?
Let me see.
Yeah, so the wording on this one is like, this can be a skill roll, damage roll, or anything else that has some effect.
Yeah, I think it would. I think you could use it against a parry. So, yeah, you spend a luck point and then they re-roll. Is how we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's much better. So you have, I believe that's 3 degree difference, and so Let me just go over to the combat section. I believe that's basically 3 special effects you can put onto them. Yeah, well, Bash has always been useful thus far. Have any bludgeoning stuff you have? I believe it's just 2 axes.
I have 1 axe and a shield.
Ah, okay, yeah. So you could.
Alright. So I'm not entirely certain how this works in the game. So is it the attack roll exclusive with the axe, or is it just a generic attack roll? Then I pick the weapon that I'm gonna use to apply the damage and the special effects.
Yeah. In your case, you have an axe and a shield. So what you could do, when you have 3 degrees of success. So basically, you would roll location and then damage, and once you do that, you basically have to choose your special effects before that point. But you choose your special effects, and then you roll location and damage, and then you resolve the special effects. And so you could hit them with your axe, do the axe damage on the axe location, and then bash them with your shield. Is how I understand it.
Okay. No, I thought it was like in the 40k games we played, or in 5e D&D, for example, where each attack roll is tied to the weapon or item you're using to inflict it to attack with, rather than this.
Yeah, it's that's the way it works if you have paired weapons, and the thing with paired weapons is they only work that way if you have a like a combat style that goes with it. So if you have like dual swords, or if you have a sword and shield or spear and shield, then you can do that kind of stuff with it. But if you want to use your combat style at no penalty, then you would have to choose one weapon or the other.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'll just go something simple for now and just try to slam this bastard in the face with or in some part of the anatomy with the shield. So the special effect would be bash, and the attack is with the shield.
Okay.
Yeah, so 5 damage to the chest.
All right, and I believe you look up what that roll for bash was. Yeah, it's a hard athletics roll. Alright, yeah, so you knock him over the railing and he goes down into the water.
Alright, and then for a second point, I'm gonna take an axe swing at the other one, or the one next to it.
Alright. Yep, and I don't think this one is going to choose to parry, so you can go ahead and put 3 special effects on him.
Alright, then I just bleed 3 charms then.
Right. Now roll your location and damage, and then I'll do these.
The abdomen, 7 damage. As a free endurance test against my standard attack roll then.
Right. Alright, so I think that's 1 count of bleed.
Yeah. And then yeah, for every round after this, they take 1 point of fatigue until they're either healed or dead, or unconscious rather, and then possibly dead.
Yeah, so you lay your axe into his, I believe, abdomen, and he just starts bleeding all over the deck.
Yes, sweet zombie blood. And yeah, I'll save my last point for heal or parry.
Right. I believe now we're down to Brarnir.
Can I even do anything since I'm downed?
Was it that, the way I remember it, let me look at your sheet just to be sure. But the way I remember it is you had just had a major wound, but you weren't unconscious yet.
Wasn't it a serious one? Major one is when you go beyond that location in HP. Or in the negative of the total.
Yeah, you may be right. Yeah, remember you made a really good endurance test, which kept you from going unconscious. And I'm reading about wounds on page 111 right now. And let's see what else. I think you might still be stunned for 1d3 rounds. I don't think there's a roll to prevent that. Okay. You can't attack or cast spells, but you can still parry or evade. So that's for 1d3 rounds. We could go ahead and roll that and see how many rounds it is. Count one down since already. Did you guys hear me just now?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Making sure. Sometimes when I'm like in a certain tab, my speech button doesn't get through to Discord.
Yeah, serious wound is zero HP or negatives. Major wounds are negatives, so equal equal or greater than the starting HP in the negative. So if you have 8 on the abdomen, for example, if you have -8 and below that, that's a major wound.
Yeah, he's at a -1, so I believe that's just a serious wound.
And this is on page 111.
Yeah, did you? I did a check earlier, but just occurred to me. Did you hear me earlier when I was reading out the that we should roll one for 1d3 rounds? Did anyone hear that?
Yeah, I did hear it. Traffic. Since it's your character, do you want to roll 1d3 then? Alright, so it's a 2.
Right. Let's see. How was the number put on the clock again? Do you remember?
How do you mean?
Oh, I just figured I would put a round timer traffic.
Oh yeah, so you hover the cursor over the icon and then on the numpad you hit the number. And if it doesn't show, yeah, there you go. It shows up now.
There it is. So, and since we started off this round, assuming that'll be, this will technically count down to 1. And his
Yeah,
last.
because last turn in combat was the one that he got wounded, and he was down for 2 rounds. This would be count as 1.
Yeah. And on page 111, it mentions you can still move around and evade. You just can't make attacks or cast spells, something else.
All right, so Bramnir the Muscle Wizard can't cast Fist.
Yep. And there are also, in the combat section, I believe this would be in the 78 or 79, it's above the section where the actual combat roll section is. You can see your combat actions, and there are a bunch of things in there that have to do with evading and avoiding combat as well. You could look into. But yeah, is there anything you want to do with this round, or do you want to skip on over?
I'm trying to decide if I want to stay on the ship or just not be here anymore. I'll just leave it not on the ship for now. Save my actions to evade.
Alright. Now it is Varg's turn.
So this guy here, he's standing up on the rail.
Yeah, the 4 guys are sort of hanging off the side. That one guy is standing on the ship.
And I'm going to take a step over, and I'm going to use the back end of my spear, the bottom end, and just kind of hit him and try to knock him over the edge.
All right.
Would help if I got my damn character sheet.
Oh, that's a great roll. Yep. So not only do you have, I believe that's 5 basic degrees of success over him, 5 successes. In addition, you have a crit, so you can use anything from the crit special effects on him as well.
What page are the crit effects on?
Let's see. They begin on 97. There's a summary page that has a couple of critical effects sort of highlighted, but I don't think they've done a very good job of sorting it all out. In fact, I think about 50% of the default special effects they have in this game seem to require some type of crit, whether you're defender or attacker.
Excuse me. I think I might try to do a drop.
I think drop foes range weapon. Let me read it to be sure though. Yeah, I think it is. It is ranged. The only tip that gives it away in the description when you're reading down the sheet is the word shot, but they also have it marked as ranged. Uh, the chart below the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about earlier, where I need to sit down, and I need to make a cheat sheet for all of this, which I forgot to do. But yeah, in this situation, um, I mean, the two that stick out to me as being useful would be maximize damage and bash. You can do a whole bunch of damage to them, and then knock them over the edge.
Yeah, I guess I'll do that.
Yep, and maximize damage. You basically just roll location, and if your weapon only has one damage die, then it'll basically just be max damage. And if it has two die, then you basically turn one of them into max damage, and the other you still roll for.
And my long spear is D10 plus 1.
Alright, cool. So just roll location, and then you'll do 11 damage to that area. Alright. Yeah, so you basically just you whacked him with the butt of the spear, and basically just went right through him, severed him in two. Yeah, that exceeded his chest by a good deal. Alright, do you want to use any of your other actions?
I think what I'm going to do is step back to where I was and then set my spear and just, kind of wait for these guys to jump over.
Yep, you can do that.
I'll just set my spear for a charge.
Right, let's see what a bunch of drunken sailors can do around. Yeah, so this group over here, they've been making some pretty good gains. They killed one of the ghouls and then injured another one. And the group over here didn't have so much luck. They basically are trying to stab over the railing, and they have an advantage there. The ghouls don't really have a lot to grab onto, but the ghouls managed to injure one of the sailors and then toss one of them over into the water. Alright, and you also see the Marines are sitting there sparring with these four ghouls over here. And that seems to have mixed results as well. And now we're down to Kairos' turn.
Yeah, he's not doing anything right now. Actually, yeah, he is. So he's gonna try. It's kind of stupid as fuck, and I cannot believe why I'm doing this. But he's gonna try to board the other ship as well.
Alright. Yeah, I believe that was a either an athletics or an acrobatics test to if you wanted to climb through the gun window and then jump into the other gun window.
Kairos horribly fails and falls into the ocean and dies.
Yeah. I mean, you can take whatever risks you want, I suppose.
Yeah, no. The way I'm thinking about this from Kara's perspective would be that he saw one of the people he has been traveling with jump over. He's seen some fighting through the gun ports, and then he might have seen Bramner go down, but at least he knows the situation is that Bramner is outnumbered over there. So what did you say, acrobatics or which other one?
Or athletics.
Can I, use willpower instead?
I mean, that might work if you had a spell. A floating disc of some sort. Honestly, you might even be better off, with trying. Actually, I don't even think you have the skills for that. I was about to say you'd probably be better off working these siege engines than trying to jump across, but I don't even know if that would be a wise choice.
Yeah, no, like honestly, he has 14%. Athletics, that's the only thing. I don't. No, it's not gonna do that. Fuck. The skills betraying me. I don't know. He'll stand there. And, yeah, it draws his knife, but it can't do anything else. So such a gimped character. But yeah, he draws his knife and that's it.
All right. Now, I did notice two things while I was going through this turn tracker. For one, there somehow were no ghouls turn tracker. I'm not sure how that happened, but I seem to remember them being around 14 or so I'll have them go now, and then I'll put them on the turn tracker, 14. And the other thing I noticed is that I forgot to have the ballistas roll to read. I'll go ahead and do that as Yeah, so they actually managed to reload it in that round, and they get a hot sauce. But none of them, they seem to be. Actually, let me look up something. Because I think I actually neglected to roll for whether or not they hit the first time. The first time they launched a volley, because you're point blank, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense that they have to really aim in order to hit the enemy. The aim would just be to decide how successful. Just a moment, I need to drag something onto the board to mark. Actually, I'll just draw it on. I think that'll be better. Yeah, so the ballistas, they basically missed everything of value in the ship, but they did enough damage to the hull that there is water starting to. You can audibly hear water in the lower decks right below these areas, and those are the areas that seem most heavily damaged. Now, resume back to where we should be in the initiative order, back at Athlon de Grey. I'm going to make a attack, I believe.
Well, at least Browner wasn't impaled by a giant ballista bolt, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Well, he convinced the shit out of everyone.
Yeah, that was an attack roll, so all he's done is to convince the school not to exist anymore.
Well, hell, I'm convinced and I'm not even in there.
Yeah, he just lays waste to that ghoul. And now we go down to Harold.
Alright, so from what I understand this, it's the, let's see here. It's the exhort skill that is the mechanical thing you roll for to see if you trigger the miracle that you're trying to invoke.
Yeah, let me get over to the page numbers just to make sure, because I think it is a little bit different than the magic we've been using thus far.
Yeah, because there's two skills for it. So devotion is like how y- how the relationship with the god or the deity, and then exhort is the one that you actually use to channel the power. It's really fucking weird in the system, man. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Like you can give D&D, like 5e D&D shit for a lot of things, but at least it didn't take a fucking bachelor's degree to figure shit out in the book.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I'm actually, I know D&D 5th edition pretty well, and it's pretty baffling some of the decisions they made for the physics in that world. Let me see. Which power is it you're trying to activate in particular right now?
Trying to invoke the heal wound thing,
Right.
because I'm honestly close to dying at this point. Yeah, so on page 180, like at the top there, it says mechanically the skill works as a simple base chance to successfully channel the power from the god. A thesis with exhort, and then example 70% has a 70% chance of performing the relevant miracle.
Yeah, I'm reading through it. All right. So, do you have like a devotional poll already set up? Have you already looked into that by any chance?
Nah, you know what? Fuck it. We'll figure this shit out afterwards. I haven't not looked into that. There's too much shit to deal with, so I'll just do the usual attack bullshit.
All right.
Sorry for voicing the sound.
Yes. No.
So the zombie closest gets Oh, there you go.
Alright, so you can put up to 3 special effects on him. You just bash him off into the water or do anything else you want.
No special effects.
Right. And was it the injured one to your left or the uninjured one to your right? Fitting.
Probably the injured with the first one. No point in splitting damage when we need to remove this many.
Yeah, so he had already taken 7 damage to his abdomen, so an additional 4 damage. It just, his guts rip open, and he crumples onto the ground.
And with the second point, I'm gonna use my shield to ward my abdomen.
Alright.
And then with the last point, I swing the axe at the zombie to the left or right, whichever direction.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I don't think this one is going to try and parry that, so you can go ahead and do whatever you need to.
Then I'm max damage. Is that an actual crit or is that just looks pretty on the map?
Yep, that's a crit.
Yeah, then max damage.
Alright, what's the damage on your axe? Yeah, so his right leg comes off. Yeah, he'll go prone onto the ground. Oh.
I also have the damage modifier, so 1d2 as well. So should I roll that or is it just the 7 from the axe?
Sure. Go ahead and roll that.
Yeah, so 8 damage total.
Right. Alright, will that be all for your turn?
Yeah, I spent all my free actions, so.
Alright, and Bronir, are you going to, actually, I forgot to deal with the ghouls down near where you are, but they would have basically tried to run away anyhow, so are you going to do anything?
If this ship is going to be taking more hits, I should probably get off of it.
Yeah, you can do that.
Oh yeah, and the stun tracker immediately goes down 1 as well.
Yeah, let me double check. I think it may be, we may need to go to a whole new round order before that takes. But let me check just to make.
You know, I wonder how fantasy stuff would be. Actually, I suppose that would be the like Warhammer Fantasy. I was just thinking like how would a fantasy setting work with the like 40k like Death Watch or Rogue Trader rule sets, but you just change the setting and have it be fantasy, like high magic fantasy instead, like classic D&D setting.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the Warhammer 2nd edition is, since it's made by Fantasy Flight. Or, actually, I don't think it is. I think Fantasy Flight based the rule set off of them correctly.
Do they still have like all the crazy psycho bullshit when you roll when you're playing a magic user in that game?
Yeah, they actually have expanded tables too. So there are D1000 tables that you can roll on whenever magic stuff goes wrong, and some of those things you roll on the 1000 chart have charts of their own, and so if you mess up a magic roll, you could encase your party inside of a giant wheel of cheese and stuff like that.
Not gonna lie, all in favor of giving that a try, even if it's just a one shot, to see what kind of crazy shit that can happen.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. There's one of the shows that I watch. They have a Patreon reward system, and one patron donated and basically insisted that every time they crit fail any roll, they would have to roll on the Warhammer Fantasy the warp chart, and then another part of their campaign they had to use the Only War Psyker chart.
That's beautiful.
Sorry, but yeah, I got sidetracked. But the let's see, 1d3 turns due to being stunned or distracted. Okay. Yeah. So the whole cycle that we go over multiple times, I think, is called the combat round, and so that must mean that the turn is each time it cycles towards you until everyone's out. And so yeah, I think the counter does go down. So you're stunned for this turn, but you won't be stunned next turn. And again, stun in this system, the type of stun that you're suffering from, you can still move around and stuff like that. You could jump back onto the other ship if you wanted to, or you could move to somewhere else inside this ship.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to ditch this ship before it potentially sinks.
All right, you can do an athletics roll if you want to try and jump back on board.
I'm gonna point that.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
That was a good idea.
Yep. Yeah, so you can jump back on board and scramble into the gun nest on the other side. I'll go ahead and move your token back. All right, and so that's one action. So you can hold your further actions or do something else if you.
Is using one of the siege weapons that be engineering or mechanisms?
I've been using brawn to pull the bolt back, and engineering to fire. You could do that if you wanted.
Alright.
Yep. So you got it loaded, and so the yeah, I believe next turn. Oh, actually, since you have multiple actions, if you have another action left, you can spend another action to go ahead and fire with an engineering roll.
Yeah, using firing it would be my last action.
Alright, yeah, so that goes directly across, and I'll go ahead and scribble this down. Alright, and just for damage, just to see what you get, you can roll 1d12 plus 6. Yeah, you pretty much The ballista just goes right into the hull of the other ship and destroys the other ballista, and then the shrapnel and pieces of crap flying everywhere basically just vaporizes the 2 ghouls in there.
Revenge.
Yep. Kung Fu didn't save him this time.
Parry this.
Alright. So now we're back to Varg, if you have any actions left.
The last thing I did, I just set my spear. So
Alright.
seeing that nobody charged across. Leave. I will. I guess I'll just step over here and smack this into the face. Try to knock it off.
Yep. Go ahead and roll.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, honestly, you could probably just maximize the damage and turn him into vapor at this point.
Yeah, that's one. Just do maximize damage again. Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Yeah, so your spear just goes right through his eye socket, pretty much. Just tumbles off into the water. The ghouls have used up all their actions, either attacking or parrying. And I believe the sailors have used up their action. And, oh, the marines still have one left. Right, yeah, they continue their sort of fighting with the outside. And Kairos, you can bide your time or do something if you're so inclined.
Yeah, by the time, honestly, like there's really nothing he can do at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now,
Actually, is there an burning oil lantern underneath here somewhere?
yeah, there are
That's
a bunch of those.
All right, so Kara's gonna go grab the oil lantern, and then probably tap Bramner on the shoulder and politely ask him to throw it to the other boat, or on the other boat rather, because yeah, Kairos is not strong enough. He can barely lift the damn lantern.
Yeah,
But both. There's no way he'll throw it across.
yeah, you can do that. So yeah, you unhook the lantern and go over to hand it to Bronir.
Bronir, you have been at the other boat. Throw this lantern.
Can do.
Good
Guessing
luck.
just in athletics.
Let me see.
Or do I have to wait since I used my actions?
Yeah, I think.
So you can spend a luck point, not to be that one, but you can spend a luck point to get one additional action point per turn.
Yeah, thrown weapons and even improvised thrown stuff is still under the combat style system, I believe. So you would probably end up using unarmed combat style to throw a lantern if you wanted to.
and this would be the desperate effort thing. I'll put it.
I might wait because I have one luck point, and I would hate to fail the roll and drop it, and not have a way to reroll.
Yeah.
That would be comedy gold if you fucked up, like critically fumble, dropped it, and it's just caught everyone down here caught fire.
Wipe out the whole group just because I tried to throw a lantern.
Well, new plan. We take the enemy ship.
Yep. All right. Yeah. At that point, I believe we're at the a whole new set of rounds. At which point, and I'll just remind you of the sort of setting you've been fighting in. You were trailed by this ship through most of last night, and through this heavy fog, and so the wind, which has basically been becalmed ever since the storm, starts to pick up again. Much more noticeable with the fog, so you can see the rolling and swirling of the wind around you, and it begins to fill the sails. And also as a reminder, their ship is torn to bits, and sails were stripped off long ago, and so your ship is starting to lurch forward ahead of theirs.
All right.
But if we escape them, then we can't loot their ship.
Yep, this is a concern, definitely.
That is certainly true, but if we burn it down and it sinks, then I can flex my god powers and give everyone underwater breathing. Then we can fucking dive down and loot.
It is also worth considering you've lost about half your crew, so that's there's that as well.
That just means half the shares, or double the shares, actually.
Yep, double the shares.
Yes, now we truly have an ungodly abundance of seating arrangements. No more benches, but actual comfortable chairs.
Yep, Athlon keeps his men in working order, and then we go back down to Harold, who has a ghoul basically bleeding out and limbless below him. And what's this guy's deal over here? Let me see.
Which one steals? Well, where?
It's just something I was checking. So this one, he's got a pretty grievous head wound, and this one has an almost everything wound.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I think Carl's gonna give that the closest one a chop with the axe.
Yep, you can do that. You'll have a couple of advantages there for hitting this one too. Works.
I might need that advantage.
Yep. Yeah, if you want, because you'll probably just be finishing this guy off, you can just roll location, and that'll probably kill him, to be honest. Yeah, so you chopped his left leg off, and then now you chopped his right arm off, and he just, continues to bleed out all over the deck, and is now motionless.
Alright. And then that's the one action. The second action, he's gonna now that I actually looked it up, and I have the pool set up, he's gonna try to invoke the god of war, the favor of the god of war. So which is one hand after he swings the axe down and cleaves the zombie apart. Gonna take his hand and then rub with the fingers, draw the 8-pointed star on his abdomen where the grievous wound is, and then he's gonna recite a prayer, try to invoke the healing words.
Nice.
I'll toss a luck point on that because that's bullshit. And also, I really need this. That looks a bit better.
Alright, so that's going to be all for your turn?
Yeah, and then yeah, he still keeps the shield warded for the abdomen. And yeah, the way this heal spell works is that it fully heals. Like as long as you're not in either major or serious, it heals it up completely, full HP. So I healed up the abdomen.
Yeah, I was reading that earlier. It's pretty quick.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's my turn.
Alright, and Brarnir, do you want to do anything?
I mean, I guess I could throw out that lantern.
Yes.
Yep, you can make an unarmed if you so wish. It'll be a pretty easy roll.
Right, if it's
Yeah, so
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I was just gonna say, you'll probably because you're using an improvised weapon and you don't have a, I mean, you could literally build a combat style around chucking flammable objects, like a Molotov cocktail-based kung fu of some sort. But you don't have any such thing, so you would normally be at a small penalty. But because you're hitting such a large thing, you have a bonus, and so that'll even out. And so the only thing to really consider with this is that if you fail, there could be certain consequences to having a lot of oil and fire around you. That'd be the only thing to consider. Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's straightforward enough roll. So yeah, you light up the enemy's ship. Alright, is there anything else you want to do?
I mean, I guess I could shoot ballista again.
Yeah, you could roll Brawn to reload it. You have 2 actions left, I believe, so yeah, you could make a Brawn roll to reload it, and then an engineering roll to fire if you wanted.
I super loaded it.
Yeah, just cranked it back without breaking a sweat. Nice. Yeah, you hear the bolt disappear into the enemy's ship, and water basically like a deep plunking sound as water seals the vacuum left behind the bolt. And you can also see that the enemy ship, through the porthole is listing to one side as water begins to gather on the lower decks. Alright, is Varg interested in doing anything?
I think what I'm going to do is just set my spear again and hold.
Right. Yeah, most of the ghouls are disappearing below deck, and the ones on your ship are attempting to scramble back.
They just friggin' ninja flip back across.
Yeah, pretty much. Check something quick. Alright, there is a sort of attack of opportunity. I'll go see if the sailors can even take advantage of that. Oh yeah, they can totally take advantage of that. Yeah, the sailors, they're kind of armed with improvised weapons, like different, batons and hooks and harpoons that are laying around the ship. And these three ghouls that try to jump away, they just get, snagged and whacked. All of them fall into the water below. They both got crits, but the sailors crit a little bit better than the ghouls. So yeah, the wind is picking up, and your ship is starting to gain a lot of ground on theirs. Is there anything you want to do as you see their ship sort of drifting into the fog and tilting over at an angle?
I mean, not really for me. I can't think of anything some zombies would have that I would want, especially want bad enough to fish out of the ocean.
Yeah, that's a fair enough point. All right. Yep, just checking to make sure. So, yeah, you guys, uh, depending on what you're doing after the battle, everyone else looks like they're tending to wounded, and then examining the decks to make sure there's no clingers on or any. And then they're also throwing the ghouls overboard. They have sort of look of disease about them, sort of sunken areas around the eyes. So the sailors are trying to get rid of them as fast as possible.
Since Varg has first aid, I guess he's going to start treating people.
And of course, the other thing you notice is the robed figure at the head of the ship still chanting, and not super loud, but in a sort of conversational voice, and so that's also. But other than that, it's just people tending to the wounded.
So I guess whoever's hurt the worst, step up, and everybody else behind them.
All right, you can do one large. We'll call it a one large first aid skill, and it'll just go for a few hours. Call it just how well you treat people over the course of time.
All right, and I'll spend a luck point and increase by degree of success. Didn't even need to.
Nice. Yeah, you managed to bandage everyone up really good. You see, a lot of the sailors and the Marines. They have a lot of bite marks about them, and you make sure to try and wash the wound off as well as you can, and make sure everyone is bandaged up with clean cloth and everything. And it's about as well done as you could possibly expect out here. And if any of the Northerners want to roll locale, or if anyone else wants to roll any knowledge that might be related to, then you can do so right now if you want. Right? Yeah. Neither of you really find out anything, in addition to what you already know before about ghouls. But yeah, it is understood that it's understood that they're infectious, but nobody, you guys don't really understand how the infection spreads or how to prevent it. But you're doing a good job of keeping the wounds clean, so there's that. All right. So as you continue along the coast, and you eventually find your way into the Gray Wash Bay, and the fog still kind of, these clouds of mist sort of obscure areas in the distance, and it's difficult to make out any land masses as you pass them, but you do know by your navigator's reckoning that you should be in Grey Wash Bay. So you're just following the coast for most of the day as you head towards the capital of the Cordal Highland. And as you work aboard the ship over the course of the day, we can go ahead and see what you guys encounter and do along those lines. So we can start with Varg, I suppose, if you want to roll seamanship or whatever other duties you want to take over for that day. There's a couple of vacancies as of late.
Yeah, since we got recently attacked, I guess I'll go on. Lookout.
All right, you can do a perception roll. Nice, yeah, that's a good one. Let's see, yeah, you can actually make out some of the landmarks, as you call them, out along the coastline, and that's of great assistance to the navigator, who's able to keep you close enough to the coast to not be spotted easily from the sea, but at the same time far enough away from the coast that you don't run up on any rocks or unexpected surprises. So yeah, you do a fantastic job throughout the day. And Kairos, yeah, are you still looking at kitchen duty, or are you looking to help out in some other way?
I do some cooking.
Yeah, you guys are forming the new A team of the ship ever since the ghouls attacked. Yeah,
Who knew that a ghoul attack would be the thing we needed to get promoted on this boat?
yeah, it was all the motivation you needed apparently. Now everyone's doing a fantastic job. Yeah, so you just cook fantastically, pretty much, seemingly as if you're not even penalized by the ingredients or the environment of working on a boat.
And
and
it's probably like an easy fish stew, you know, it's like a lot of fish, like extra bit fish, and then a bit less root vegetables and all that. Balance it out.
yep. And Bronir, if you want, you can continue rowing with a brawn roll, or you can take up another job aboard the ship if you so wish.
I'll stick to what I'm good at and help bro.
All right, like a plan.
How much was the passage without working? Was it like 180 or some such? And then 80 if you worked.
Oh, let me see. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, if I remember correctly, I think it was 40 per person for working.
Uh,
I think you already paid your though. Oh, did you want to roll your brawn, Bronir? Yeah, yeah. Being smacked on the head a few times might have affected your rowing abilities, but luckily you're not in any danger right now.
Alright, so in the time immediately after the attack, before the thing settled back down again, Browner, did you ever come up above deck again, just checking things out, or did you keep below deck the entire time?
Probably just stay below deck.
Alright.
Right. And are you guys basically sticking to your jobs, or are you doing any wandering around the ship um, as the day progresses?
Since Varg's on lookout, he'll pretty much stick to his post.
Right.
I think Kyrus spends all the time in the kitchen, basically doing that because he was completely useless during the fight, so he's making up for it with renewed vigor in the kitchen. As for Harald, he does the lookout as well, but sees that Varg is doing such a great job spotting everything, and he's having trouble um, seeing things in this fog. So he, after a while, he accepts that he can't really do anything up here, and then starts wandering the ship, just making sure, like, weapon at the ready, um, and then just making sure that there is no zombies anywhere hidden as he walks around the ship.
Yeah. So what you may notice in that as you're wandering around the ship is there's a sort of an area where all of the injured are laid out until they get to shore, and you see they've all been bandaged up really well, but there are still a few of them that look like they have an infection about them, and they've broken out into a sort of a fever with beads, like bullets of sweat basically going down their face, and the skin has turned a sort of like a pale, um, like a maybe like a light blue, almost sort of color.
All right. Yeah, so you notice that on the top deck, or like underneath. As it comes down, as after a while, as it comes down into the bottom part where the rowers are, and notice that there is significantly less of them hanging out down here now rowing. I think he sees Bronner. Bronner, have you had a chance to get patched up yet, or are you still having this massive head trauma?
I haven't been patched up at all. I
All
just figured I would sleep it off.
All right, and yeah, you're pretty deep into crits, yeah, or at least into crits.
-1.
All right, give me just 1 second. I need to find the wording for this because I had a thing I wanted to do.
You'd also notice that Varg's kind of cocky at the moment since he took out 5 ghouls and went through the entire fight basically.
All right, so you have a serious wound. I mean, it's bragging, right, to murder that many, you know. It's all good. But yeah, I think as Harald is down there looking around, making sure there's no zombies, and he sees Bronner sitting there rowing with this massive head wound, he's gonna approach him and I think he'll say, "You are injured. You require aid. I can ease your suffering."
Coming from you, are you going to heal me or put me out of my misery?
I'll try the healing first, and if that doesn't work, considering the infection upstairs, we'll see.
Fair enough. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so Harald reaches out a hand, and you probably still have some fresh blood on your head. So he reaches out and dips his fingertips in the fresh blood, and then draws the 8-pointed star on your forehead, and channels the power, or tries to channel the power from his god as he chants the litany. I'll black point that. Fuck. That's damage. These dice just work. So would I be allowed to pull from the communal luck pool for this one? Because I'm trying to heal an ally.
I mean, if you guys think it's well. You know, I keep forgetting to look this up as well. But I think there's not that it matters for this head wound, but in the future, I keep seeing mentions of how you can use luck points to mitigate damage. So we should also consider that in future fights.
I think that's for major wounds though, because that will like literally knock your ass out.
Yeah.
I think you spend a luck point to mitigate that, so just like you burn a fate point in the 40k games. Okay, are you guys with me spending a communal luck point for this heal?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Thank God. Well, that happened.
And by the way, because I was looking through the they have all kinds of different monster generators for this game, and just as like an idea of what you can do with this combat system in monsters. Dragon Breath in this system affects all locations simultaneously, and so if you have a shield, you might be able to ward, your head and chest, but every other part of your body is going to take, 7 or 8 damage. Like, it's pretty nasty.
Yeah. All right, Trevi, your head, that head wound is completely healed, so you have max HP on your head now.
What if you've got like a tower shield and just kneel down behind it?
Yeah, that would be the ideal situation. Have a nice tower shield made of something that'll resist it. Yeah, so you mend his wounds back together, or mend his head back together, rather, and all of the he's basically, I imagine it just being like swollen up with bruises, because if I remember correctly, it was just a ghoul that kept punching him in the face like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty.
The fact that it hit my head back to back is just super annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, full HP on the head.
Thank you. I don't think we've been introduced.
I would think not. I haven't seen you before. I'm Harald. And he reaches out his hand.
Burn here. And I shake his head.
So what brings you to this part of the world?
A fresh start.
I understand. Things back home, not so good. I thought maybe this here would be a fresh start as well. At least we got some excitement along the way. And he, as he says that, he flashes a toothy smile.
Certainly off to an exciting start.
That it is. I don't know anyone here. I don't know where to go. I have no real plans or goals. So if you need another shield, I would be interested in following you. It would always be good to have some friends in an unfamiliar place.
If you were fighting up deck, I'm sure you saw a friend of mine, Varg. I don't think he would have any objection.
I saw him, fought not too far away from each other. He's a good killer. Managed to stay alive longer than I've expected him to. And he like looks down slightly to his abdomen, where you, and if Browner looks down, you can see like the armor, like the leather armor he wears there, are torn to shreds, and there is like dried blood. And it says, I underestimated their capabilities, but I assure you I will not do that again.
I'm going to pat my head and tell him I did the same.
An easy thing to do when fighting the undead. They are deceptive.
Also killed more than anybody else.
Harald just looks up to the ceiling, wonder where the weird sound came from. Seems that his ship is haunted as well. Weird noises, coughing fits. I'll see you topside and Browner. And he gives you a curt nod.
Yeah, unless there's anything else you guys want to do, you should arrive in Rock Hang by the end of the day. Yeah, and I didn't notice until yeah, I didn't. I was actually watching the last episode while I was sorting out my stuff on my YouTube, and I saw that Hellforge um, made a pointed out the city Rock King in the Cordal Highlands, and this came from a language generator that I used, and I didn't realize that I had accidentally built a oh man, what was the name of that game? I built a level from Brutal Legend, basically, by accident.
I mean, it's a pretty good one, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, so the galley pulls into the bay, and it's a city that's undergone sloppy and rapid development. But you can see there are quite a few people out to work in the early morning as you arrive. Now, the area of the city, the Timber Hall slums, as it's put here, is basically this whole area is really muddy at this time of year, and the land is very slanted, and so there's lots of temporary housing that's been put up because as people have been basically taking oxen and horses up and down this hill and all of the roads, and with the rain that's begun at this time of year, all of the land has basically just been sliding out from under them, and a lot of the hastily built and poorly built buildings that were here originally have slid into the harbor, basically. And so the whole place looks like a mess right now. But you can still see there are these there's a wooden palisade around the city, basically raised earth with some nice, thick logs on top of it, and a couple watchtowers. And the rest of the city is in slightly better shape, but it's still pretty humble, as much less built up than the city you left her. But now that the galley has docked here, the crew are going onto shore, and Athlin de Grey is talking with the Marines, two of whom are injured. The other passengers who you were riding along with have already parted ways with the ship and its crew. So now you've arrived at your destination. Oh, the other thing I should mention. So now that you've gotten out here, each of you receive 2 experience rolls. You want to go ahead and add that to your character sheet?
Where does that go?
At the
right.
very top right on the core page.
It's also worth noting that in this system, experience rolls typically represent like the result of downtime activities. So now that you're in town, you could basically pay for lodging for a week and spend a couple of your experience rolls to do some stuff, like to train up in a skill. But if you guys get on the open road and head to a keep, and then at the foot of the keep you decide, well, I want to spend 5 of my experience rolls right now, then that's not something that you will probably be able to do, because it's supposed to represent long-term activity. So I was just letting you know that now that you're in town is the perfect opportunity to spend any experience rolls.
I need to stockpile 10 of them so I can increase my strength.
All right, and yeah, if you guys can look through that or hold off your points, whatever you want to do, and I will go and get a refill on my coffee real 5 minutes or so.
All
Yeah,
right.
sounds good.
You know, it just occurred to me what we have done now. By letting these plague victims survive and then go out into the city, chances are there's going to be a zombie apocalypse here. And this place is so remote and cut off from everything else that it's just going to be overrun.
More loot for us.
That's very true. A man can never have too many loots, even though he can only play one at the same, or technically two at the same time. Can do some sick hammer offs, some hammer on pull offs, you know, to play. I don't know if you're into any of the neoclassical metal stuff, but there's some crazy guitar players out there.
Man, I've been really slacking ever since I got the new cable for my guitar.
There you go.
And here I am struggling just to play it normally.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely a special case, that one. But yeah, man, I haven't fucking touched the guitar in probably 4 months now. I just haven't felt any real desire to play. Oh yeah, do you have a Guitar Pro or anything like that to learn new songs?
Nah,
No. Is there anything specific you're struggling with when it comes to playing, or just in general?
just in general. I'm not a fast learner.
Uh, is there yeah, what you're trying to learn right now, like song or just techniques?
I think my problem is I'm just expecting too much. Like, instead of just going at the pace that I need, I'm trying to rush, and then I get discouraged and stop for a little while, and then I come back.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I'm like that with like exercising. You know, fucking trying to lift the heaviest dumbbell, and then I wonder why the fuck I hurt myself. You know, fucking can't lift for like 2 weeks because I can barely move my arm.
I actually dabbed so hard once that I hurt my neck.
You know, if you honestly did that from dabbing, you fucking deserve it, you cretin.
That's basically what I said at the time. I'm like, oh, I think I just sprained something in my neck, but you know what? That's probably what that's probably what you get, you know?
Yeah.
I also there's an art guy I listen to, and I think he plays video games using his tablet usually, depending on what game it is, I assume. But he played so much Darkest Dungeon that he actually injured his wrist and had to go to the hospital because the way he was using his pen to, the flicking motions and all that. Played this game for like 4 months straight or something like that, and I was just like, holy shit, that's like I joke about video game addiction, but that's a serious problem that guy has.
You know, they didn't believe him too. They're like, yeah, you hurt your wrist playing a video game.
Well, at least he didn't die like that dude playing StarCraft.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing because of the strats with Terran players in StarCraft 2, some doctor came up with a in the abstract of a medical journal he wrote Terran exploding wrist syndrome in reference to the StarCraft players who play as Terrans and their wrists are completely shot from having to do certain maneuvers.
You know, I'm kind of glad I'm too scrubbed to be able to pull off those maneuvers, because I actually need my wrist.
Yeah, it's pretty useful, honestly. All right. So, do you guys, now that you're out in the wilderness, camping in the woods is definitely an option that the locals, won't yell at you for like they would maybe back at home. Um, but are you planning on spending any time in town, or do you think you'll go right to business? I guess it depends on how injured you guys are, or if you want any recovery time.
So the way I'm thinking about this, right? We don't know anything about this area, and we probably don't have the necessary supplies either, other than maybe a couple of rations.
Got a month of rations, really.
Yeah, and we have probably have at least one with survival skill to live off the land as well.
Yep, I've got survival.
All right.
You're
Well,
talking to an experienced adventurer here. I got everything we need.
oh yeah, I forgot.
It was so funny to me. In most of the D&D games I play, I'll just play a human fighter, and the rest of the party will play like super weird out there stuff. And so my normal human fighter with a crossbow and a rapier ends up bailing out, the lizard man wizard and the elf sorcerer and everyone else.
I actually got to come up with a new D&D character because my paladin died yesterday.
Oh man.
I've got 28 days of rations. I've got cooking pot, first aid kit, flint and tinder, fishing kit, grappling hook. Got a lodestone so I can at least keep direction. Got oil, rope.
You have chance. Bedrolls.
I got a bedroll.
Well, from now on, you're the party quartermaster because I can't be bothered dealing with this shit.
Bedroll, there's perfectly good ground everywhere.
Yeah, you just cut off a bit of the lawn and just roll in that, pull that over and sleep. I think maybe. So I'm saying this. I don't actually know. I'm saying as so, Bramner. First of all, to establish this. So after we get off the ship, or probably as the ship is gliding in to port, and we're all topside, do you introduce? Like, do you make introductions there, or we just assuming that everyone got to know each other at some point?
How much more time passed before we talked and we made landfall?
Maybe an hour or two.
Okay. So after we make landfall, we should probably make introductions.
All right. Yeah, we can either RP that out or just hand wave it if that's okay with you, Mom.
Yeah, I'm okay with either. If you guys have a idea you want to role play out or talk about your homeland or your characters, I'm 100% behind that. I'm just putting, before I forget again, a link to the classic fantasy supplement for Mithras, which if there's something that's missing in the core book, good chance it'll be in there. Basically, anything that's in Dungeons and Dragons will probably be found in the book.
Okay. Now, for me personally, like I find we hand wave some of this stuff for now and then. We can always sit down by the campfire later and talk about the old country.
Yep.
Or I just wanted to establish that, so I know where in my head we should be.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can hand wave it for now and um, just say that you've sort of joined together as a group after dealing with all these ghouls.
Yeah, I think Harald will say then, as we're standing there on the dock or just walking, we probably need to get a lay of the land here first. Maybe talk to some of the locals, see which direction we can go, so we don't end up falling off somewhere or falling into something.
Or at the very least, get some semblance of a map.
That's you. And yeah, Harald looks around and he raises his voice and points at one of the, I suppose, dock workers and shouts, "You there! Where's the general store in this godforsaken town?"
Yeah, one of the dock workers, he turns around and then points uphill. He says, "Oh yeah, you can get to the market. Climb up. Just watch your step up the slope, and you should see some colorful tents up there that'll point you in the right direction."
Thank you. Keep following the eightfolded path, my son. And he makes the star on his forehead and then he starts walking towards the tents.
Right. Are all of you guys moving across town as a single unit for the time being, or do you have different things that you guys?
I've got nothing else I want to do.
Yeah, neither does Varg. He's mainly interested in doing the same thing, getting the lay of the land and hearing local rumors, and the market's a good place to do.
All right. Yeah. So as you head up past the Timber Hall slums, and then there's a market area of the city, and it looks like a lot of it is sort of temporary plots where people have set up either little wagons or taken apart several structures, put a sort of a shop together. And most of the stuff here is a little bit overpriced, but and the selection is fairly limited. It's mostly geared towards selling basically survival equipment and stuff you need to survive. Or what I mean by survive out here is like they sell food and firewood and stuff like that. And if you needed to buy anything a ranger might need, you could find it here pretty easily. Anything else has to be imported. So that gives you an idea of kind of goods that are available here. And anything else, of course, you could look around and see if anyone happens to have any.
So I'm saying this out of character now. We seem to be set with gear, just the basic necessary gear. So we need a map, to, and then is there anything else we need? Because we have provisions and all that.
Aside from the map, Varg is just basically keeping an ear out for any interesting rumor, tales of local monsters or shit like that. Stuff that could earn us a quick coin, because frankly, Varg's looking for a shield and the fucking things are expensive, so he needs some quick.
Yep. Yeah, so looking for jobs is that's a pretty straightforward thing. And yeah, you guys came here to get a quick start on money, so it all makes sense. So yeah, um, right before we handle that, so um, yeah, so there's not anything that are you looking to purchase anything right now, or do you guys maybe want to look for a job and then see if anything is worth purchasing?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is just get a map of the area, if there is one to buy here. And then after we have the map, we can start asking, split up and start asking around for job, and then reconvene like a few hours later and see, pull the jobs and see if there is anything interesting to us.
All right, just a moment. All right, a map of the area, which basically matches the little overworld that I have painted, which makes up, the parts of the Cordal Highlands that are known to the rest of civilization have been filled in with labels and everything like that. And so you can get a basic map of that area for 6 silver pieces, and it'll come with a map tube that'll keep it, out of the elements.
Yeah, Harald throws down the cash to buy 5 of them.
All right.
Actually, 4. Yeah, no, 5 of them.
Okay.
So that's what, 6 times 5.
Yeah, so 30 silver.
Actually, we'd only need 4. Yeah, Brynir, Varg, Kairos, and Harold. Unless you want to give a map to the goat.
Oh yeah, no, I counted wrong, but yeah, I already subtracted, so Harald buys an extra one, in case someone loses theirs. Or more important, or more likely, the one he has gets drenched in blood and can't read it anymore.
Right. All right, so if you have those marked down, um, anything other than the maps? So I'm looking through all this.
No, at least for what I can think of as a player,
Okay, yeah,
I think pretty much the equipment we need for now. Because now we have at least a good, decent idea of what's around us.
yeah. Let me pull stuff quick along. All right, and so Harald is securing maps of the area, and Varg, you're interested in getting you know knowing a little bit more about the area and maybe knowing where you could make some quick money on short notice.
Yeah, I think he's going to go try to track down some woods, be they either loggers or hunters or hunters or what. They'll probably have the most in-depth knowledge of the more wilderness areas.
All right. Yeah. So, if you want to roll an influence or any other skill you think would be more applicable for asking.
This would be influence, but it's not very good, so here's for hoping. I'm gonna luck point that. See if I can get anything at least somewhat. Well, no, I'll need a 28 just to get anything. So
Yeah. Yeah, so it's difficult. There's also there's a little bit of a language barrier because the people a lot of the locals around here seem to speak a strange dialect, and it's a little bit difficult for you to understand some of their directions, even the more talkative ones. So over the course of the afternoon, it's difficult to you know figure out anything about the city. Um, just walking around, you can tell that some areas of the city are more built up than others, and you can also see some people wearing uniforms that you recognize being from the Perdunton families in the region you just left, and that's the region that has that's the kingdom that's recently taken ownership over this area, and so you see a few of them running around, but that's all you're really able to find out so far. Uh, do you want to do anything in particular, Bronir?
Now, we've already got maps. I'll probably just ask around, start seeing what kind of jobs people are on.
Yep, you can give it influence as well. One of you is bound to accidentally kick down the door of a local tavern.
Oh yeah, so while that's going on, then can Harald do a perception check to see if there is any taverns or drinking tents nearby?
Yeah, let me check real.
Actually, I think if Browner is gonna head off and do something, I think Karis is gonna tag along if that's all right. And then Harald
I'm
peels
gonna-
off and does his own thing.
I'm gonna need some help with that roll.
Yeah, so I'll say this. Without a roll, you can tell where one particular tavern is because it's a really large building and it's advertising itself as a tavern. You can walk in there. That won't guarantee that you'll learn anything, because this is definitely a party that's built for smashing skulls and not chatting up people. But yeah, you can walk in there and maybe do your rolls to talk to people in the tavern. To find any other locations that aren't so obvious, you might have to leave that up to chance or figure out a workaround later on.
So are you saying that my 4 charisma ancient sorcerer or ancient folk magician isn't very good at being a face character?
What I'm saying is your 4 charisma magician will need a spell to conjure friends.
Wow. Well, good thing, soon enough he had this pretty sweet dementia, so he'll make new friends every day.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do this perception check then, and then kick in the door for the one that I know of. What the hell?
Well, like I mentioned before, it's not an awful perception, but it's luckily not necessary. The You know of a tavern, like I said earlier, without a roll. I'll say that you know where the local tavern, like the main tavern in the city, is because it's a really large building that's advertising itself as a tavern, and that's a tavern called Rosamund's Respite.
All right. So that's obviously a trap. So let's not go there. Where is the city hall? I hear we can have drinks there. The mayor always carries the good stuff.
Yeah, you can actually you can make your way towards there's a bunch of large stone buildings in the old ward, and that's also where you see a lot of the Perdunton people in uniforms. So you can wander around there and eventually find your way into the city hall.
Well, if this was my half orc's capital city, his fortress would be the local tavern.
Yep.
Yes, I do believe the dwarf would have the same setup. But yeah, I think Harald stomps away to the oversized, too obvious not to be a trap tavern.
Don't worry, the zombies won't attack until you're all inside.
And that's good. Then Karo's gonna hang out, outside, and just to troll the GM.
Yep.
Can start the encounter if not everyone in the party is inside.
Just start pouring alcohol on the building so when they attack, we can just burn the place down and kill all the zombies.
Excellent idea. But yeah, Harald goes in to the tavern, just checks it out, and like I said, Kara's gonna tag along with Bromner if that's all right.
Yeah, it's those of you who go to the main tavern of the city. It's a newly built establishment with you can tell it's pretty hastily constructed, but they obviously put a good deal of work into it. And it's one of the few things in the city that looks like a real building, basically. And so you enter in, and there are a few people, and mostly sailors, who are drinking over in various corners, different tables.
Yeah, Varg will head to the tavern after he strikes out looking for woodsmen.
All right, so would it be an influence roll to just ask around for work then?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, even though you guys all have terrible influence, you're bound to eventually. You know, like the thing you do in RPGs where you bust into random people's houses and they just talk to you for some reason. You're bound to get the right person eventually.
You know, if I
That
could,
always amused me in RPG games, like just walking randomly to strangers' houses. Fine.
Just walking. Hey, do you guys need anything? I'm going out in the woods.
Do you guys need me to kill any rats or anything like that?
Because I got this hammer.
are you fucking serious? I'm out. I'm fucking done. How?
You guys just can't shut up about how you were bitten by ghouls and you think it might be contagious. That's all that you're talking about.
No, fuck this.
I
Kara's gonna drop a luck point. This ain't right.
Hey, does this look infected to you?
I killed 5 of them more than anyone else.
It's better than the last one, at least.
How magnificent. Alright, let me pull some stuff up now. Let's see, got a job on the first day. That was more than I was expecting.
Fuck. Yeah, I spent all the luck points with Karos and I got an easy success.
Well,
Can I guess, maybe roll customs or something to see if I can maybe blend in with the locals a little bit better?
there are a couple of northerners in here. With customs, you could basically go over and basically pretend to be one of them for the day. Um, whether or not they happen to have any any work for you, that'll be a whole other question. But you could at least have a group of allies that might be able to help you out with this in the long run. Maybe have them ask around work for you. Oh, that's fantastic.
Now
Yeah,
you
I'm
get
a
the
goddamn
success with you.
chameleon.
All right. Let me see here. This is worthy of a slight side tangent, real quick.
Wow. These rolls, man.
All right. So if you want, Varg, you can go into the background section of your character sheet, and in your contacts, you can put, let's see, group of rowdy sailors, something along those lines. And then, as you know, if you use that contact in the future, we can slowly add more detail to it. But you can just note down that there are a group of rowdy sailors who are really good friends with you. You know, they're really on your side in this city, and if you happen to require their skill set at any time, then they'll be available to you.
Cool.
All right, and so then we got one success on it was Kairos. So you're basically you're doing the same thing that Varg initially did when you arrived here, where you're trying to figure out how the city works and what kind of work you might be able to get on short notice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So with one success, you know that, and maybe like the people you're talking to, they kind of shake their heads and they say, "Well, there's no work available." But then as the conversation continues, where they start talking about local events, a lot of the people you talk to seem to complain about this noble who's been poking around in a lot of the taverns. He usually arrives somewhere in like the late morning or early afternoon in this tavern, and he goes around and basically bugs people about going out and retrieving some item that's been stolen from him. And And so you get that little bit of information.
All right. Yeah, so I think because he's tagging, rolling with Bromner, so Bromner, I think hears that too as well.
So what time is it now?
This would be late afternoon, probably.
Okay, so we've got time to kill them.
Yes.
So yeah, you guys could pay for lodging here for the night, or you could look elsewhere if you are so inclined.
I think Kara says to Bromner, I think we should head to that oversized building that is clearly marked as a tavern, but it's too obvious.
Yeah, it might be hard to sleep getting rooms here.
That sounds best, and then continue on tomorrow. And yeah, Kara starts shuffling his way over there.
Right. Alright, so this place, for each of you, the normal rooms in this establishment will be 2 silver. Um, actually, I'll call this 1 silver per night. So if you just want to spend the night here, pay 1 silver each.
Yeah, I think Kara's drops. What would that be? Yeah, 8 silver. Pay for 2 nights for everyone here. You just think, even if you don't spend, so my thinking here, out of character is, even if we don't spend 2 nights here, like we still have the option to do so before we start heading out.
Yeah.
So it's 8 silver. You can pickpocket someone and get that back.
Alright. Yeah, so are you basically going to settle in for the night and rest after your somewhat eventful voyage? Or is there anything you'd like to do as the town starts winding down for the evening?
Bar is going to get some proper drinking in.
Alright.
Yeah, I think Carl's gonna get some drink and Kara's probably gonna go to bed early. Actually, no. Because it would be more interesting this way. I think Kara's gonna head to the kitchen.
Actually, Var is going to call Harold over and challenges him to a drinking. Says
You
the best way
may.
to get to know somebody aside from fighting.
I agree, friend. Let's drink to the victory we had earlier today.
Alright, you guys can each drop 2 silver and drink yourselves stupid for the night.
Yeah, and Harald slams his fist on the bar counter and shouts for the bartender to pour and never stop. And yeah, I'll drop. So it's 2 for me, 2 for him. And then, yeah, so 6 total. So I pay for the 3 of us to drink.
So do we just roll endurance to see who outlasts the other?
Yep, you could do that. Each of you roll endurance.
Yeah, so Brahmaner drinks for the night is paid for as well if you want to partake.
Well, I'm not going to say no to free drinks.
Oh yeah.
You know, I just realized I don't have any luck points left.
Well, Var got drink the dwarf. That's a victory in itself.
I'll use my last luck point.
Fucking dice, man. Oh,
You just barely beat me by 3.
Worth the luck point.
Dwarf God.
You rolled that. Did you roll? Oh, never mind. I see it now. I just saw Kairos and didn't realize it said here.
yeah, it says underneath there which one is actually.
Yeah, the dwarf god had to step in. It's like, no, I can't let you loose to a human.
Sounds about accurate. But yeah, I think as Harald and the others are drinking themselves stupid in the tavern, I think Karas is gonna shuffle into the kitchen and see if he can be of help, do something there.
All right. Yeah, you can. There are a couple of ways you could go about doing this. You could. Um, yeah, actually, let me think of.
I suppose it would be like he offers his services for the night as a line cook or something like that to help with dinner preparations.
Yeah, I just rolled a die for myself, just give myself an idea. Yeah, if you go back there, the state of the kitchen is looking pretty shabby at the moment, and it looks
You
like
also find out that Varg is a horrible singer.
yeah, you can hear that several rooms over, and yeah, you find out the kitchen is in pretty shabby shape, and so if you can go back there and offer your services, and the innkeeper will gladly accommodate that. She sort of sighs with relief, depending on what you're about to roll.
I'm trying to save it by turning it into a duet.
Well, that's pretty good though.
Yep, a feast worthy of the gods is prepared by Kairos, but it doesn't make up for that song.
My duet ad lib didn't help.
I think honestly that was the thing that drove Kairos to the kitchen to begin with, when the two drunkards started singing like horrendously out of tune and offbeat with each other, and the music in background. Kairos just like alt F4 the fucking thing, went into the kitchen so you wouldn't have to hear it. But yeah, I think Kairos spends the rest of the evening there just helping out in the kitchen, and maybe as they're working with the kitchen staff, however many that is in this kitchen, maybe there's some like maybe he overhears some gossip about the region and local farmstead nearby. Maybe hear something about where they get the resources or some such. If you want, I can roll for that.
Yeah, I think in this case, with you, working closely with him, you can at least overhear. Well, actually, give me a perception, because I'll say that you're kind of focused on cooking. See how attentive, how alert you can be as you're working and preparing this immaculate meal.
Not very.
Yeah, you're able to catch a couple snippets. You do know that they're having trouble feeding all of the newcomers to the town, and a lot of the farmers are also, basically leaving to other parts of the country in search of more profitable work. But as a result, they're having to import more and more food. So the food is becoming more expensive for them to purchase here. So you know that much, and not too much. Too much helps that you hear from them, though.
Okay, as a player, I have so many ideas for where I can take this. As a character, I am almost annoyed with how fucking screwed I got with the die when it was my intelligence that tanked instead of my charisma.
Yeah.
because yeah, like I can't in good conscience metagame the shit out of this to propose the idea because the characters is like barely fucking functionally human, with how stupid it is.
Yeah, it's always
He's just got a dash of Alzheimer's.
it's always funny with intelligence scores in games like this because there's one game I was watching where a guy ended up with intelligence like 3 or 4 due to penalties, and he was already complaining about that, and then he found out that horses by default have an intelligence of 5, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm basically a vegetable."
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, yeah. So the night eventually passes, and you guys can go to bed at normal times like normal people, or you can do any number of um, wise or unwise things during the night.
Well, considering he spent the evening drinking himself stupid, he's going to go to bed like.
All right.
All right.
Right.
So we have a map. So just to clarify the situation here. So we have maps over the region. We don't have any real leads to any work other than that noble person who shows up and complains a lot.
Yep. He usually shows up in the morning and complains. I mean, you also know that the city is short on food, but there's not much you guys can do about that. Go out and slay goblins and take their berries, but other than that, not too much of a lead there.
You know, if only I was an agriculture priest instead of a war priest, then I could just do the whole woololo and convert the fields into ripe harvest. You know.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you guys can wake up and basically wait for that guy to show up if you so wish, or you can do anything else in the meantime.
I think Harald and Carrot's just gonna sit down at the table somewhere in the tavern and have a drink and a meal, breakfast drink and a meal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the food they serve out here, it's mostly it's a really hard cheese and looks like smoked meat that they serve out here, probably prepared by hunters. And you guys don't have much in the way of any grains or vegetables at this time of year. And uh, then if you want, you can just basically watch the door, see if anybody shows up.
What did you say about hunting?
Oh, I was just saying the food you're eating. It's mostly hard cheese that's stored over the winter, and smoked meat, probably gathered by hunters.
I was thinking since Harold and Kyrus are just sitting in the bar waiting on what's his face, I figured Varg might actually spend the day and go out hunting, get the kind of lay of the land for himself, and maybe get some extra, win some brownie points with the locals.
Yeah, you could do that. All right. Yeah, so Kairos is, I assume, is going to be the person who's going to watch the door and make first contact with this prospective job giver.
I sure hope not with his 4 charisma.
Okay, it would be Harold. Is he the one who's looking to do this?
Yeah, so, but But basically, just I was setting the scene, so those two were just sitting down having breakfast before doing something. But I think Harl's gonna sit down at the bar, or sit and wait for him at least, and Karis can go off and do something else.
Yeah, I realize now the nameplate should have tipped me. Alright, yeah, so um, yeah, as you see people come and go, it's mostly sailors in this tavern. You don't really see many rangers or woodsmen come through here. But around a few hours after daybreak, the door opens and someone who sticks out from the crowd, unlike all of the other sailors, person dressed in pretty clean and high quality robes with a couple of satchels on him, walks in.
All right.
Just a
What is Bromner doing at this point? Varys said it was going out hunting after breakfast.
After breakfast, I'm probably just waiting. See if the guy showed up.
All right. Are you sitting together with Harald, or are you sitting at a different table?
Yeah, I'm probably sitting with you guys.
All right. Yeah, I think after breakfast is done, Karis shuffles off to explore the city a bit, check on a couple of things that is relevant to his interests. And yeah, when the door opens and this noble comes in, Harald sits there with his drink, just looking at the person, but doesn't make any moves yet, just observing what he's doing, listening to what he's saying.
Yeah, so he walks into the establishment and he first goes up and buys a drink and sits at the bar for a while, and then you see him talking with the people, various people at the bar. And he sort of goes from one person to the other, and in a conversational tone of voice, he usually talks to them for a little bit, and they after a few moments they sort of shake their heads and he just sort of nods and goes to the next person. And in some, when he starts walking over towards your side of the building, you can hear more of the conversation. And he seems to be asking, oh, are you traveling towards the north road on the Wester Way? And then if they say yes, then he asks if they can find an object for him that appears to have gone missing in this area of the woods. And he usually loses people's interest before, at around this point or before.
All right. So when he's like a few I suppose a few tables away, and he once again just gets reacted, and he starts, straightens up and starts uh, looking at the next table. Harold will turn like turn sideways in his chair, points like extend his hand and points at him to get his attention, and just wave him over to the table.
Yeah, he approaches you and says, greetings, Northmen. Um, is there something you need?
Greetings. Yeah, I've been hearing rumors that you're looking for people. We just came in. We need some coin.
Oh, well, I have coin. And you look like a hardy sort of fellow who can survive in these parts.
Let's not be pleasant. I look like a downright bastard who'd kill anyone if I needed to. What do you need done?
Well, there's an object that me and some of my the fellows under me have worked quite hard to acquire, and a man under my employ seems to have taken it and fled into the northern lands, and I would like you to go and retrieve it.
How much is you're paying?
I'm willing to offer 400 silver for the retrieval of this item.
Yeah, at the mention of the price, Harald looks at Bramner, just side eyes, see if that's a tiny head shake or a nod. If the price is acceptable.
Yeah, I'm gonna nod that. Well, I'm gonna ask what are we looking for?
He says, um, yeah, well, if you want right now, you can do an insight roll if you maybe want to, get a look over the way he's speaking.
I didn't expect it, but I figured I might as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I was just checking. This is also, you know, this is the kind of area where, like I mentioned before, your characters aren't expected to, kick ass in this area. But there will be opportunities for you in but yeah, as he's talking, he says he seems to collect his thoughts for a second when you ask what sort of item this is, and he says, "It is a fragile stone, uh, not unlike the shape of a like a skeletal structure, some type of bone. But I assure you, it is very fragile. It must be handled with extreme care."
Not unlike the cook we're carrying with us, then. And he smiles a toothy smile at Bromner.
He's gonna laugh at the little jab.
And he looks back at the noble and says, "That's good. The person who took it from you, do you expect them to survive it and come back and tell you about it, or can we deal with him as we see fit?"
You can take care of him however you wish. He's caused me quite a headache in the last few months, and the mayor of the city has basically been wanting me to be rid of him for some time now. So if he is resistant, then feel free to put him down.
Sounds as good as any job we can get here so far. We'll look into it then. Do you know where he is? Deep in the woods doesn't really tell me anything.
Yes, he should be camping north, somewhere along the Faro Brook, the largest river just north of here. And
Yeah, as he says that, Harald rolls up the map on the table and just gesture point to point.
right, I'll move us over to this area. Yep, I'll put a
And
little green dot.
all right, yeah, I know my voice keeps changing because my throat hurts too bad to actually be to get properly get into the character voice that I had in mind.
Yeah, it's more than okay.
All right.
Yeah, so he points there and he says, "I'm told that he has camped with a group of individuals along this brook. Um, there should there should be him and four other men that he travels with. They're local brigands and outlaws before the prince came to this land, and he hired them on as sort of strongmen. And they were fairly well behaved until this recent incident. And I don't really understand what possessed them, but they raided all of our possessions and headed north. I'm not too interested in the other items they've taken, but this stone is quite precious to me and my operation. Like I said, I would be grateful if you brought it back.
Fair enough.
Yep. And then he sort of extends his hand and he says, "Well, I am a Peyton Trugast, a scholar of the university in Verdunta."
Yeah, Harald stands up, clasps him by the wrist, and looks him dead in the eye and says, I'm Harald, devout follower of the Eightfolded Path. Remember that, because you will hear more about it later.
Yeah, he sort of nods as he shakes your hand.
Tommy Vercetti, remember the name.
Oh, man.
I mean, I might as well just play up all of this stuff right now, put it out there in the universe, because fucking hell, the first combat encounter this character was in, he almost died, so, don't expect much at this point. Alright.
Alright, so yeah, you can now, if you want, there maybe this wouldn't be the call for your character, but normally you could make any number of rolls to talk to this guy, negotiate price and all that stuff. With your rolls, you may not want to attempt that just because you might make the situation worse, but it's your guys' call.
At worst, I suppose the best I can hope for here is that after we hand over the artifact, we get paid and I just drive the axe through his skull, take the artifact, take the cash, and leave again.
Yep.
But that seems like a bit of a dick move, honestly.
Yeah, it's you could easily just leave it here. Now, the other thing that I'll do, I'll let you know, sort of out of character, is if you had anybody, you guys are all really good at fighting, so you can solve a lot of your problems by, the enemy ambushes you. It's like, well, no problem, we just killed them all and took their stuff, right? Like, that's a viable strategy. But you could also, in this situation, if you had a social character, you could go around town and ask, who is this guy? What's he all about? And then maybe head off any problems before they arrive, or you figure out if he's going to betray you, or figure out if there's stuff he's not telling you, or if he's incompetent. Any number of things. But for now, I think the best course of action would basically just be to prepare to head out. Unless you want to do anything else.
Yeah, I think Harald sits down again after the noble leaves, and continues drinking, and says to Brahmana, I have a bad feeling about this, but it seems like it's the only thing we get so far.
Just because we accepted the job doesn't mean we need to finish it. If things go south, we can always just walk away.
True that.
Alright. Now, while you guys are discussing all of this, Varg, I believe, is out in the wilderness trying to find some game. And in the survival rules, basically, get a critical success, you can find an overwhelming abundance of food. And otherwise, I'll say that a standard success means you bag some type of game large enough to basically skin, bring home, and produce several servings of meat, for a few people. So if you want to roll survival, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'm gonna reroll that.
Well, at least you didn't stab yourself in the foot with the spear.
Oh god damn.
Yeah, it's a brand new land. You're not really sure what the deer out here are like. They may not even speak the same language for all you know. But
Well,
yeah,
so much for winning brownie points with.
Well, at least you get some exercise, Run off that excess energy.
yeah. Yeah, so you have this sort of like a handshake deal with this well-dressed guy, and he, you might even you probably notice this without a role because your character is, of course, you live in this society, and you know that nobles are pretty particular about their names. And this guy who you're doing business with never gave you a noble title; he just gave you a first name and a surname. And so he's either not actually noble. He may just be a really well dressed scholar, or if he is a noble, then he may be trying to conceal his family name. But that may be of no consequence for you.
Even though I was saving my XP for boosting my strength, I was kind of relying on this whole being skilled at survival thing. So I think I'm going to take 2 of my experience rolls and boost my survival skill.
Yeah, you can do that.
Like the really dumb thing is, because it's a percentile die you roll. Like I have fairly decent skills, like 40s in a couple of things. It's just that I keep and 50s and 60s. It's just that I keep rolling really bad, which is unfortunate. But that's also the charm of tabletop RPGs. Sometimes the RNG is just gonna screw you over.
Yep.
But yeah, since Varg is just out running in the forest, I
Oh,
suppose we
wait a
just
minute,
have
wait a
to.
minute. I actually do need to reroll that anyway. I didn't have it filled out right. I didn't have my characteristics listed.
Ah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, now I'm going to reroll with my luck
yeah,
point.
that's slightly better.
Okay, same result. Basically.
Yeah, you're able to find some, not any game, but you're able to find at least enough berries and edible stuff out there to keep you fed during the time that you're hunting. You just don't get any luck with any actual furry animals. Let me see. All right. So you return from the hunting trip, and you guys are all set for this excursion, or is there anything you'd like to do in town?
Roughly what time of day is it now when he comes back?
Oh, actually, yeah, it'll probably be the evening. The hunting, I was thinking of that like most of the day thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, but we probably wouldn't head out in the middle of the night, you know.
Yeah, I just realized that as well.
Apparently,
Alright.
I didn't feel any of my professional skills outright because I was rolling my seamanship at a 30 when I should have been rolling at a 55.
Yeah, the character sheet can be pretty finicky, but overall, after I understood it, I think I'm a fan of it at this. It can be kind of confusing at first, I think.
Yeah, I'm in a silver also for a night each. Was it 3 or 4?
Oh, for accommodations, I believe it was 2
Yeah.
silver per night.
Alright.
Yeah, unless I'm mistaken. No, I believe it was 1 silver a night. That's my fault. You can mark that, correct that if you want.
If that's the case, then it's 4 of ourselves. So Harald will spend 20 silver and book us all for like 5 nights each. I figured at least we have a temporary base of operations, you know, to start from before we go out somewhere else. But yeah, if when Vari comes back in the evening from his hunting trip, I think sit down at the table at the tavern again, and uh, Harald will essentially just give him the details of the conversation that happened during the day when he was away. What was the noble's name again? I forgot to write it down.
Yeah, I can put it at that.
All right. So as we're sitting down for dinner, it says we got a mission from Peyton Trugast, who claims to be a noble, but he was unwilling to give the house name. So he's either lying or he's ashamed. Each could work in our favor.
Noble or not, as long as his coin spends.
True. He was willing to pay us 400 to retrieve some bone effigy or some such that was stolen by someone in his employ. Lives a few miles north of here in an encampment with 3 or 4 others. It was a bit sketchy on the numbers. Shouldn't be too difficult. It is probably a setup and it's probably gonna go down bad. But it's the only thing I know that I know of right now. And we all seem to be a bit strapped for coin, unless you've been holding out on me.
No, I'm in need of coin myself. To buy a damned shield, the fuckers are expensive.
And at that, Harald just chuckles. If you're so desperate for a shield, friend, I saw some barn doors down by the docks you could rip off and use.
Well, to be honest, I was kind of hoping the ghouls would kill you so I could just take yours.
I can't begrudge you for thinking like that. I would do the same.
Hopefully, whatever poor bastards we find on this journey will have one I can take.
Or I'll just have the carpenters conjure up a barn door for you. At least that'll work as a tower shield. But yeah, like I think one thing you notice as we're all sitting drinking and eating, when you said that you were hoping that they would kill Harald, like he actually has a genuine smile of a mirth when you say that, because like that is something he would do himself. So there is no hostile intentions or anything like that that you know.
Yeah, definitely. Alright, so you pay up a few days, and I guess we might as well do healing. Is anyone still wounded? What?
That is a good question. Oh yeah, I have a couple of scratches here and there.
I don't have any wounds listed, so I think I'm.
That just means you were too confused to write them down.
Too illiterate to die.
And if only that were the case. But yeah, I have a point of wound on both characters. So how do we do this healing thing?
Well, if I had to guess, then you're probably healed completely, but I'll look it up because it's good to know.
Apparently, I've got a -1 to my constitution and dexterity, but I don't know by. Oh yeah, that was that. Was that gas cloud from that zombie?
Oh yeah, yeah, you would have gotten over like that.
Been handicapping myself this entire time, didn't you know it?
Yeah, so I think your healing rate is already pre-calculated on your character sheet.
Yeah, is that like uh, is that like a uniformed free across every bitch? Or how does that work?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it kind of tells me halfway how it works and then directs me to the side of the book. Yeah, so minor wounds. This is why I think you're supposed to keep track of basically each take separately. But if you have a minor, if you're recovering a minor wound, you get your healing rate every day towards it. And then with serious wounds, you only get your healing rate every week. And then with major wounds, you only get your healing rate every month.
All right. Yeah, so then I'll be healed then because I'm only missing 1 point.
Yeah, that's how I figured it was going to go, but I'll look this up too. Right. Yeah, and so I think everyone is healed up, and so you can choose to basically stay in town and continue to kick down random people's doors and gather information, either on this job or another one, or you can go ahead and sit out and see what happens as you go, basically.
I vote we set out.
You know, now that you have drawn this beautiful town map for us, if you can flip that over again. So which are we going the green way out of town?
Yeah, the Wester Way, the Greenway, and you know you can see this just like walking around town. The Greenway, it looks like there's a couple of cobbled stones that are hidden under all the brush, but the grass in the middle of the road is about knee height, and it doesn't look like anyone ever goes down there. The Westerway is a paved road that looks fairly well traveled, but it is in a horrible state of disrepair.
Okay. No, that's all I needed to know. Because now, like, if we, yeah, so where like, there's so many buildings along that way out of town. Like, we can always just kick in random doors for the hell of it while we're walking down. Normal D&D parties does pub crawls. We just do casual break-ins.
Yeah. Well, the main benefit here is since you're out in this sort of rough area, um, a bad enough influence check might still get you into trouble, but the difference, making enemies with a couple of sailors or a couple of peasants isn't as bad as making enemies of like the local nobility or the local clergy or someone like that who can really fuck up your day.
True that. So it is going to be a bit of a random question, perhaps, but on the road there, those buildings just outside the city walls, do you happen to know what those are on the top of your head?
Yeah, you can go out there, and those are little farmsteads, and they kind of they're built in kind of like a squat log hall. They have very low door frames, kind of like you have to crawl to get in, and they look like the homes and storage areas of the people who work those farms out there.
Yeah, probably not worth bothering those yet.
Not yet. Once we hit rock bottom, we'll come out here and bug the farmers and see if they need any rats squashed. But until then, we'll see if the nobles need anything done first, and then we'll come out here and bug these guys.
Yeah, then it's middle class, and once we strike out with those, we go to the peasant farmers.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's see if the goblins need any help.
I mean, isn't that literally just the keep of the borderland adventure that you do? Like you help the people in the keep first, and then you side with the goblins, attack the keep, and then you just switch inside like that, back
Yeah.
and forth. But yeah, if the rest of you are good, I think we can head out. yeah, scout the landscape as we go. And yeah, I think Kyrus is gonna stay behind in town, just hang out because he is useless in a fight.
Well, I mean, he's not really useless. I mean, he can soak up an attack that would otherwise go to one of the useful. He's a meat shield.
Yeah, without any meat or ability to shield. No, but
Holy shit.
so wanna yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, um, and I'm glad I looked this up now. So I have a series of charts I use for this region, and just to give you an idea of the landscape and the weather, and so you may just want to double check your character sheets because today it'll get to around negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 25 degrees Celsius. And the highest it's going to get is 5 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 15 degrees Celsius. So, and that's spring weather out here. So, if you don't have any cold weather gear, that might be something you want to consider.
Let me
I was
double
just
check.
gonna, I was just gonna say, how long does it take to get out there?
If you, let's see, yeah, let me go back to that map. The map is calibrated for a person on horseback. So I think foot is half that speed, but let's double check.
1.5 days by horse.
So 3 days basically. So maybe a bit of a dumb question, but if we horse around a lot while we're walking, can we get there faster?
I mean, you can, uh, certainly try. You never know until you try.
I suppose that would be a profession skill, like profession comedy, stand-up comedy routine or some such.
So if I did a successful navigation, could we go cross country and cut a time off? So we just go straight there as the proverbial crow flies. It cuts off a half a day, so we'll cut off a full day by foot.
Yeah, that would definitely be an option. I was looking at travel rules, and then I realized that I'm not even in the right system rule book, so will probably help to use the right book. Let me look it up real quick.
The traffic. Does Bromner have any cold winter gear by any chance?
Don't think so. I think all I've really got is my armor, which is padded armor.
No, I
Yeah,
don't either. All I've got is 2 sets of common.
yeah, we might need to stop by. So I think we walk out to the inn then, and just immediately hit by this like intense wave of biting cold. Probably a bit of snow as well. Whereas, probably should go get some clothes, appropriate weather clothes for this, before we spend like 3 days walking.
Yeah, it is half speed, so let me just. Yeah, so it is 3 days. Or if you just went straight there, it would be basically.
Yeah, that's still a bit too long without in this uh, cold weather. Like you can survive a couple of hours for sure, but like several days like that, probably freeze to death.
Yeah, I'm looking up in the rules now, and during the night it'll be cold enough that without weather gear you'll have to make checks every hour to not take fatigue.
Yeah, no, that's so. Yeah, I think the first thing we do is just head over to the general store or clothes store or whatever, and then buy some gear.
Right.
Also, what page is spending XP on? Mine?
I believe it begins on 72.
Oh, character improvement. Makes sense. Why can't they just call it spend experience?
All right. All right, and you guys were interested in cold weather stuff, or have you already found?
Yeah, is there like a kit or a bundle you can buy so you don't have to buy each of these damn things individually?
Yeah, there probably is. Let me consult the books.
There isn't anything in the core book. I don't know if there is anything in the supplement you linked.
That's where I'm looking.
Okay, so roll 1d100 plus my if it's equal greater than skill plus 1%.
Yeah, so yeah, I forget how expensive clothing is in this system. It's like 140 silver would get you full fur gear. But I'm looking to see if there's any cheaper than that. Even the normal clothing is pretty expensive.
We all die from hypothermia. Game over.
Yeah, it's you can get a cloak for 20. Ah, winter coat or cloak. That's 30. You see, and that's the cheapest one. So 30 silver can get you a winter coat. Oh god, this is the kind of stuff that I actually live for in D&D as well. Is when the DM prepares this wonderful encounter and then everyone dies of hypothermia getting to the dragon's den. Just the most hilarious shit to me, to be honest. As the
So
player as well.
what's 1% of 51?
That'd be like 0.5 something, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
What are you looking at?
The XP or the spending the XP thing is like player rolls 1d100 and compares it to the skill being increased. The character's int is added to the roll, which beat it. So if the number rolled is equal to or greater than the skill being improved, it increases by 1d4 plus 1%.
Oh, I see the confusion here. So, yeah, it's not increasing. 1% is 1 point, so 1d4 plus 1% is like 1d4 plus 1 points added to the skill. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, this is they sometimes bounce between those two. The percent, and they bounce between calling the skills by percent and calling them by points.
Okay, so it's basically just 1d4 plus 1. So my survival skill goes up by 4 points. And then I'll spend another one just to make it even. That puts me back down to 2 XP rolls, but now I test survival at 60.
And you guys got your winter problem sorted out, or do you not have the funds to accommodate this?
It was how much? 30 or 35?
30.
30
30.
for a winter coat. Yep.
Yeah, I've got enough funds to buy mine.
I have it sorted out for mine. If you need some traffic, I can spot you.
I'm at
Got it.
118.
Right.
Is there anything in the book about it, or is it just it's just a winter coat we wear in the cold?
I'll go to the page number to be sure, but I think it was mostly just a. I don't think there's too many stats behind it.
If worst comes to worst, I've got 2 sets of common clothing, so I can just double up on my clothes plus the winter coat.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on page 60 if you want to look at it. And I believe the way this they break it up, because this is the cheapest winter coat that they can offer you, and it basically something that'll basically fall apart within the year, but it'll keep you warm for the time being.
All right. Yes, after we have acquired those, I think we should be good to go.
Alright, then I think all I need to do is make a navigate skill to see if I can cut a day off.
Yep, yeah, so you guys can go off the road and take a hike through the woods.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you know this area well. And mechanically speaking as well, the other thing that circumventing the road does is it'll often increase your chances of getting like an animal encounter. So if you're afraid of the local wildlife, then you'd want to stay on the road. But if you're afraid of getting mugged or running into outlaws, then going through the woods is usually safer than the highway. But yeah, in
But
this,
we're not afraid of anything.
yeah, that's true. Um, so yeah, you carve your way through the trees just without a problem at all. You never lose your way for a second, and pretty much spend the entire day making excellent pace on your way to your destination. So, are you guys, up to anything as you're walking, other than just keeping an eye out and being wary?
I think Carl's just gonna maybe quietly to himself recite some calming mantras and prayers to his pantheon, or to the pantheons rather. And I just keep an eye out, see if there's anything crazy going on.
Yeah. As you walk through the area, there's a little bit of underbrush, but the trees in this area look extremely old. This part of the wood has never been logged before, and oftentimes the area you travel under becomes pretty dark with all of the limbs stretched above you. But you can also make out the mountains looming above you as every now and then peeking through little gaps in the trees. The wind is also pretty strong, but you're sheltered from most of that being under this thick canopy. Right, yeah. So you travel for the day, and eventually night falls, and so there are a number of options available to you now. Um, the most logical of which would probably be to make camp, but there are also options and rules that go with traveling at night and being exhausted. So, what would you guys like to do?
I vote for making camp since we don't know exactly for sure how many we're.
Yeah, making camp and approaching while when rested is probably the best thing. Because if we try to sneak out there and then it's like eight or nine, it's just gonna be bad. And we're gonna be at a disadvantage even more because we're all tired.
Right. Yeah, so if someone wants to make a survival check, and that'll be to just sort of figure out you found a good location to camp, you've got enough fire going and all that. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you find the perfect spot. You find a nice dip, between several land masses, so that you can make a fire that nobody will see from a distance. And
And at a critical success, I find a good source of food.
oh yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah, so as everyone else is getting settled for the evening, Varg also manages to snag a nice sized deer or something like that, and you guys can now have access to that. In fact, if Kairos came along, he can roll his cooking right now if you'd like to see if you can prepare that.
Kairos is back in town, so
Yeah, okay. I didn't remember for sure which way it was.
it's all good, man.
Yeah, yeah, but you guys can roast this deer up with no problem, and have a nice hearty meal tonight. All right. So now a pretty good question. Who would like to take first watch of the night, assuming that you want someone to watch your camp?
And since I've got rope, I can hang the leftovers up in a tree and we can pick it up on.
Yep. Yeah. It in the book it basically just vaguely describes it as an abundance of food, but I see that as you know enough food for you guys to eat on this entire journey, and probably enough to sell when you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'll,
instead of packing half a deer carcass with us on the way there, I'll just hang it in a tree where we camped at, and then just we'll pick it up on.
yeah, I think Harald takes first watch, so the others can sleep for a bit.
If you want to just do a perception check. Yeah, so you've never been in this part of the world before, and so maybe you're still getting adjusted to your surroundings. But you keep a close eye on the surroundings, and there aren't many animals that seem to be out at night. It's also the temperature just keeps dropping as once you get to around midnight, everything is just frozen solid around you. Maybe sticking closer to the campfire, and you do hear some sounds like pretty large birds, maybe some type of owl or something in the distance. But the you can feel, uh, for example, you'll hear a bird call, and then when it lands in a tree in the distance, you can hear like the limbs sort of creaking under its weight. So that's something that sort of strikes you as odd being out here.
Alright, so is there snow or is it just super cold?
There's no snow. It's super cold and it's windy.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know because if it was snow on the branches, well, that would explain the weight. So it could possibly be a large bird, or the sap inside the tree has just frozen solid, and then the weight of it is threatening to splinter the branches. That could be that as well.
Yeah, I'll say this as well. Um, you have a nice campfire and you have an excellent campsite, so this isn't a danger. But the wind at this time is such that if you had a torch out, there would be basically a 50% chance that it would be extinguished every round. And so, just to give you like maybe a feeler for the mechanics of this, if you don't have a covered lantern of some sort, then you might have to fight in the dark a lot if you're in a windy area.
All right. Yeah, that's good to know.
Okay, so yeah, your watch goes over. Other than that, your watch goes over with no real problem. So who do you wake up to relieve you of watch?
I probably wake up Brown there second. And I just gently shake him awake. And as he opens his eyes, Harald says, "It's your turn to take watch. There's some birds here somewhere, but I haven't seen anything else."
Alright, I'll keep that in mind.
And with that, Harald sits down by the fire, or rolls up unfolds the bedroll, or whatever sleeping gear he has, and then just gets to sleep by the fire.
Right. Yeah. So Brarnir, do you do anything in particular for your watch, or you just chill by the campfire and keep an eye out?
I guess I'll take a walk around the perimeter.
Right. Yeah, if you want to do a perception check, do so. Right. Yeah, your watch is mostly quiet as well. The there wasn't a lot of noise during the day, but at night with everything being super cold, and as you walk, the ground and layers of needles and leaves under you sort of crunch as it's basically just frozen solid, and there's just sort of an eerie silence as everything is burrowed in due to the extreme cold for the night. But nothing too eventful happens, and now you can awaken someone else to take over your watch.
Alright. Well, looks like it's Bart's turn.
And Bard wakes up. He'll walk the perimeter and kind of keep his back to the fire so he doesn't ruin his night.
Yeah, and you notice the wind starts to die down towards the end of the night, and the temperature is still completely freezing, but there's not too much movement out here. Um, the yeah, I'll say your watch basically goes by, and you start to see the morning light sort of wash over the mountains as the sun rises from the east. You stay in the shadow of the mountains until the later parts of the morning or the early afternoon, and so you start to see sunrise, and you guys are up for the day. Yeah, and I think you guys are basically. I'll just mark on the map so that we remember actually. Yeah, so you guys are basically adjacent to where you're looking to go, and so I can go ahead and mark that, and we should be able to begin the next session with you guys arriving at your destination.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so if you wanted to listen for just passively listen for rumors and just the talk, get a feel for the social situation in a place, like, is there a specific skill for that, or would that just be insight?
There are a couple of ways to do this. The most conventional of which is influence, and that's to represent you walking around and chatting with chatting with people and or listening in. Um, the other option is you could do something like what Varg did earlier, where he made friends with a bunch of sailors. So the sailors, they can now make rolls on his behalf. He can like call in a favor and have them do the influence roll for him. Um, and then the third option is you could buy a professional skill that has to do with something social. So you could get, um, I could probably think of a better word for this, but you could get like a professional skill investigation or something like that, and you could train that up as much as you want. Um, and So that's a third option that you have for gathering intel, if that's what you're looking to do.
All right. Yeah, so I think this day, as the rest of the party left, I think Kairos will just, because he stays in town, right? He has the name of the noble, or pretend noble. So I think he's gonna spend his time trying to investigate, just ask around, see if anyone knows anything.
Yeah, yeah. Like, just so you know, the reason I brought up the thing with Varg as well, which I think the reason I think that's important is because if you feel like the party needs a face character, but you don't want to play a face character, then there's always the option of hiring a character to do all that for you, and so that we could sort that out if that's a direction that you guys want to. But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a very good thing, and it's probably gonna come in handy at some point, considering this party composition.
yeah. All right, yeah. So you want to right before we end, you can ask around.
Yeah, I figured, if we end with this one, then, just Karras, while the rest of them are trekking through the forest, Karras is asking around about this noble. And I don't think the noble would really know, at least not immediately, that Karras was part of the party, because he was off doing something else elsewhere,
Yeah,
while Bramnir and Harald was sitting down with him.
yeah.
And he was also working in the kitchen, so there's probably like a servant or something, like beneath contempt.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
asking.
so,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, asking around about the noble, you do get a lot of locals that are willing to chat about him because this guy has been bugging people for a while. Um, One thing you notice, as I've brought up before, the people, the like the common folk, they keep referring to him as a noble, and that seems to be, as far as you can tell, it seems to be just because he's dressed really well, and so they assume that he's a noble. As far as you can tell, nobody, like none of the guards that you talk to, or any of the people in uniform, none of them know what family he's from, and none of the ones who are willing to talk to you anyway or talk around you. Um, and So, as far as you can tell, all you know for sure is he seems to be a wealthy guy. He hasn't been in town very long, and seems to, even before this magic stone business started going down, he was well known for walking around and bugging people. And in a meta sense, you might say that he's an academic with a low influence skill. That may be one way you could interpret this information.
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to end it for tonight, if you guys feel like it.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.